bought a new keyboard yesterday. Let me immediately share the name. Let's go to info, VF specs. It is called Vermillo VEA87, and the color is this one. I've actually posted it on my Mastodon, like a picture of it, and it looks so good, like, oh my god. And right now you're already hearing the new keyboard. So what we're gonna do is go to monkey type and do a little test so you can hear the keyboard in action. You know what I'm realizing? Is the mic correct? Okay, device default. Okay, so it's using my correct mic. I recently put like the USB cord connecting my microphone into a different port, and last time I did that, OBS disconnected my microphone, so I wanted to make sure. So yeah, that's how it sounds. I love it. The difference is very clear from my previous keyboard. So first of all, let's imagine a situation. Let's go to some website like Tear Hooks. Let's search for this page. Ooh, fuck! I forgot to do this so you can see the keys that I'm pressing. And what else did I forget, Lamau? Oh, and this, so I don't get notifications. Yeah, so imagine you're using Vimium and you want to scroll. What I'm currently doing is not pressing the same key over and over again. No need. I am holding it down slightly. I don't always go all the way. I like hover the weight on the keys. And the difference is huge in this, because on the last keyboard they felt kind of rusty, the switches, but now they feel really smooth, like quality, you know? So that feels really good. Then the space is better, basically. It sounds better, and the stabilizers on it are better. So I'm going to be going from the left of the spacebar to the right. Barely any difference. Now maybe if I paid like even more for my keyboard, maybe there would be no difference whatsoever. There's still like, you can still notice it, but it's way harder than on my previous keyboard, where pressing space on its like complete side used to be like very noticeable, as well as the overall trembling of a key as big as a spacebar. Like, it was really noticeable, and now it's super nice. However, it does stand out from the other keys. So let's go here. I can just press keys. So the normal keys, this kind of sound, right? And then a space is a very, very different sound, which freaks me out a bit, to be honest. It's unusual. But first of all, I'm gonna get used to it. It's no big deal. But second of all, I did a modification to the spacebar where in this really crude way, I took some Q-tips, got the cotton off them, and glued them under the side of the spacebar so that when I release the spacebar, it doesn't reverberate as much. The difference isn't big, but it is noticeable, and it's like noticeably better. I'm surprised that it worked. It felt like a type of thing that you do and then you regret because holy shit, why did I do something this dumb? But no, actually worked really well. And all the other keys, they're just great, they're amazing. Overall, great keyboard. So it's costs 3 times my previous keyboard. It is 17k rubles, which I'm not sure how that translates to like dollars. But yeah, 17k rubles. Quite happy about it. So, the main thing that I actually wanted to show off today is Anki once again. I did some crazy changes over the days. Because in Anki, let's open some note. Let's go and study default, right? Boom, isomorphic. I want to remember, but I don't remember. Right, so you get a question here, answer here, right? But the thing about them, this is not static. How this looks is not static. You decide where to place the front and the back. You decide whether this line exists. You decide the HTML and CSS basically. That is something that you can change. And to do that, you create your own note types. Go to cards, and boom, here you have the CSS that affects your card. And then the HTML for the front and the back. And I've done a lot of changes recently. I took a lot of time making them. So let me go and show you on examples. Fuck, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's move this here and then move ourselves there. We move this here and move there ourselves. Okay. So let's go and check out note something FBC and preview this, but yeah, sure, this works. Okay, so you can enclose both the front and the back of your cards in a code tag, and that changes the font, maybe. If you're on Linux, or at the very least, if you're on KDE, you can set a Real Vimmer's design and soldier it on keyboard. Okay, whatever. I don't know how to do that yet. My next keyboard, I'm going to really splurge on. I'm gonna like deposit half a car on it. But it's going to be, you know, the orthogonal split, like super amazing keyboard. Right now, I'm happy with this one though. Yeah, so you can enclose the front and the back in a code tag, which changes the font if your system supports like setting a system font and then setting a system code font, which at least KDE does. So worst case scenario, nothing happens, you know? But you can make it do things with CSS and HTML, which is exactly what I did. Now, some of my note types make either the front or the back, or both of them, into code blocks, something that is not a concept an on key, it doesn't know what that is. It doesn't, like, there's no feature like that. But you can make it with HTML and CSS. Orthogonal is bad for your joints. I doubt it. I don't think that's true. So let's go to HTML for card. What I did here is enclose either the back or the front, in this case, in a div with a class of code block, and also, for a good measure, a code tag. That by itself does nothing. Well, I guess it encloses it in the code tag, but that's it. The div by itself does nothing. But if we go to card CSS, you can see that I added some CSS for code blocks specifically. So I gave it a background color, a border radius, some padding, and changed the font myself to make sure that actually changes. Because as it is now, only the wrapping in a code tag, code element I should say, changes the font to the chosen system font. Use a staggered layout where columns are at different heights. What are columns? So, thanks to the CSS, this kind of behavior will be applied no matter what. Which means I get to have code blocks. For maybe I need to remember something that is code, and I can enclose it in a code block, and it looks actually good. Like columns. Like on the keyboard. Okay, I gotcha. Different heights? Wait, hold up. How does that even work? Yeah, so this is a large step from the default behavior because, yeah, sure, it may change your font, but that's it. So what you might end up with, wrapping things in a code element, is that most of the text is some normal font, like your system font, and then for code specifically, the font changes for that, but nothing else, and ends up looking very terrible because it's just two fonts mixed together in a very awkward way. Google corn 6 column. Googling something that a chatter told me on stream is usually porn. And I ain't confirming that. So, this is code blocks, which you share, like, you can just, like, make as you're inserting a card on phone, and I can be bothered. So, here you can press Control-Shift-Q, Control-Shift-X, I'm sorry, and then, yeah, you could also do this yourself, but this is too long, which is why I have specific note types that do this type of thing for me. And that is how I get code blocks, by selecting a note type that has C in its name, in this like note type, you know, which comes with a code block pre-installed. But this isn't like, I don't always want a code block. Sometimes I just want to inline code. I have another note type that I can show you how that looks. This is how a inline code looks. Once again, by default, it wouldn't have this background color, it wouldn't have this padding or border radius. Oh, that's so cool. Oh my god. I always wonder, like, how do these bugs even work? Like, it's impressive in a way. It's so mesmerizing. I actually am not sure if you can even see it. What I took as selection, I can now drag across my screen and it repeats like on Windows 7. I don't know, it looks really cool to me. Whoops. It's not stopping. Okay, nice. So, inline code is quite a bit more manageable to actually make. You do code, your code, and you close the tag. This you can actually do like on hand as you're creating cards. So you can easily inline code and then it looks like that. I know, right? Anki and its bugs are just mwah. Yeah. So now I get a feature that just wasn't a thing in Anki by using HTML and CSS. There are more things that I've done. Let's look at T. This works, I guess, too. Huh, sure. It's not showing. Okay. Let's discard. Make chat a bit smaller. And go to hex, because there we will have a input box. This is not how it looks by default. By default, it's this small, ugly, like line, and you start here. Yeah. And it's ugly, and I always disliked it. It looked bad. But turns out you can actually apply CSS for it too, just as easily. So now the text that you type starts from the middle, because, well, I look at the question, which is in the middle, and then my eyes go down here, not here. So it only makes sense that it would be in the middle. Honestly, I would prefer it to be the default behavior, but I guess it isn't. So okay, fine. Yeah, there's some padding, and obviously there's now a border radius that makes it look much nicer. Like, honestly, never underestimate the power of border radius. It makes a really big difference. Also, the background color being this kind of color. I used to be ugly once before I discovered CSS-based makeup. Now I'm nigh incomprehensible. Damn, imagine if you could, like, CSS your body. That would be so cool. So let's actually type in the answer. I don't actually remember, but don't spoil it for me. Let me try to remember. I think it's 1F60B. No, that's the yum emoji. No, wait, I think it's 1F610. 1F60C, okay. You might have noticed that the input box is now a lighter color. In case you didn't, let's just show it again. 1F60C, now I know, but I'll still press again because I didn't know. Boom, and it's lighter. That's a nice visual indicator and a differentiator that Here, you were just typing in things, and once you press enter, you get this line that is a visual indicator, a very obvious one, that this is the answer now. But that wasn't quite enough for me, so that's why I also changed the background color on result. So it's even more clear that you're now in the got the answer stage. Yeah, okay. Another thing that Anki does that always annoyed me, let's answer wrongly again. Fucking ASDF, right? What it used to do here is every wrong letter is backgrounded in red, every correct letter in green, and every missed letter in gray. That annoyed me. Like, honestly, that is... that confuses me more than it helps me. All I want to know is what I typed in and what is supposed to be typed in. That's all I need. I don't need a fucking diff. I really don't. And confused me far more than it helped me. Well, I removed it by changing, or rather removing the background for the three types: missed, incorrect, and correct. Just remove those backgrounds by setting them to transparent, I think. Let's see. Yeah, here. So type bad, type miss, type good. Background is set to transparent. And the color of the actual text is set to its default color, the color that you see everywhere else. I imagine this uses that white color, this uses that white color, so yeah, because by default it's black. What about changing the background color red-green, the whole screen I mean? That would look incredibly annoying. Or do you mean like changing this background color specifically? I tried it. At first, I tried to change the font color on result to some other color. I tried this pink, I tried this yellow, I tried this green, I think I even tried this one. All of them felt like out of the theme, out of the color scheme of Anki. They felt out of place, I guess. They didn't fit. I looked through all the colors that I have, and none of them fit, so I thought, what about instead of changing the font color, actually, let me roll back a bit. Yeah, I tried out all of those colors for the font color. None of them fit, so I decided to make the font color a bit grayer. That worked somewhat, but I didn't like it. It didn't feel that great. And that's when I came to the background color idea. But the thing is, if even the font color change didn't work, the background color change would definitely work even less. Unless, I guess, the idea would be, oh, you switch the font color to something black, or to something dark at least, and you change this color to some other dark, right? But then we run into the situation that my code blocks are already occupying the dark color idea, and I wanted specifically for my type boxes and my code blocks to be easily visually distinctive and like very, very different, contrasting, I guess. And if this changed to some like dark background on answer, it wouldn't really go, you know? Idea, what about just the thin bar? Change that color. This? Well, for this, it doesn't appear when the question is asked, and only appears once you have answered. It appearing at all is already enough. Changing its color doesn't really do much. And even if you do, the same problem where, oh, what color do I change it to, appears again. Because I would prefer it to fit the color scheme somewhat. That way it won't overlap with other colors and it won't create readability issues. I mean, changing it based on a right or wrong answer, that would require JavaScript. I can't do it with CSS only. There isn't... Basically, this result box isn't wrapped in some div that has a class that goes like, oh, wrong answer or correct answer. What I showed you here, these three classes are per character. They're not per entire answer, so I can't do this with CSS, unfortunately. Like, what I would prefer is remove this diffing at all. These three dashes that you see are the remnants of this diffing. The diff still happens, I just don't see it in colors anymore. And these three dashes basically mean that you missed these three characters. Yeah, basically, it's an annoying feature that doesn't have an alternative. So code blocks, inline blocks, and type blocks all look nicer now. Now let's go to prog, and you already saw these, but I haven't said anything about them. Section names. Prog basically means programming, and it's a deck that has all the programming related cards. And putting something in every single card to basically mean, oh, by the way, this is a Rust question. Oh, by the way, this is a Lua question, a fish shell question, HTML, CSS, whatever else. It just kind of really doesn't work. Because it's super annoying to have to do. So what I decided to do instead is create specific node types. Like this node type is Rust dash TC, I'm pretty sure. Oh, TCE. Because it has a type box, therefore T. It has a code block. Let's use yellow. Fuck, not this. Code block, therefore C. And it has an extra, therefore E. And extra only really appears when you have some extra information that you have to remember aside from typing in something. So let me show you. Also, the input box has a small border when it's not focused, which is pretty convenient. It's also a behavior of Anki by default, but it does it in a very ugly way. It's honestly almost impressive. So let's type in something. I'm not going to actually answer this card. I type in something, boom, and now you see this extra information. I was wrong, by the way. This is not TCE, this is TCEI. because the extra is automatically inline code, which is why it has this background. So you need to type in some sort of information, and then you also have to remember an extra piece of information that you don't type in. And that is what this little dot on the left is actually for. It's to basically tell you that you have to remember something extra for this. It's very convenient because otherwise the situation is you answer the question, you type it in, and then, oh fuck, I had to remember this as well. I knew this, but I forgot that I had to answer it, type of thing. With this little dot, it won't happen. Will you be rewriting Anki in Rust then? Anki is such a fucking, like, project. Like, goddamn, no. Fuck no. Absolutely not. I'm pretty sure their algorithms are open source, so it's actually doable, and my friend Misha actually has that as an idea to do. But in my opinion, that is way too, like, big of a responsibility to take on by myself. Like, fuck no. I'm overall happy enough with Anki. There are some things, like the 56 or whatever node types that I have. Let's look at them. These are all the node types that I have, and the reason why I have so many of those is because I duplicate these kind of things. So a back code, a normal card, a type card. So all of these that start with a comma, when I need to create a node type for some specific subject that has that header on the top, the pink header, well, now I have to create them again. And that bloats up my number of node types. You might say, well, how about you just create more subdecks? For example, in programming, you create a subdeck called Rust, and then you just use these node types. That's the reasonable solution that you would expect to do, and that's how I did it for the longest time. However, as you're studying cards, let's say you have a parent card, rather a parent deck, and it has a few subdecks. You go to study this deck, and you will get cards randomly. Well, I guess you can configure how you get the cards from these decks. Ooh, hold up. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. You can configure how you get cards from these decks, but even still, when you're in this deck, you won't get any notifier basically saying, right now, this is a card from this subdeck, and this is a card from this subdeck. No, there's no indication. Absolutely no indication, which is exactly why I have to create my own node types that have that indication in them, because otherwise I can't just conveniently I can't just conveniently study the parent deck that has a bunch of subdecks and then know what's the question or with which language the question is or whatever else, right? In other words, it is super annoying. You don't have to, though, study this deck, like the parent deck. You can actually study the subdecks yourself. However, I had so many subdecks, I had to scroll 3 times, like with page down, to get through all of them. And a lot of the times, like, to study a deck, it's like 1 card in there and a bunch of very small amounts of cards in a lot of decks. what actually increased my studying sessions in time considerably, because most of the time that I spent is switching from and to different decks to study. It was really annoying. I should probably start using Anki. My current strategy is just forgetting stuff. That's how I did as well, but I've actually used Anki a few years ago, probably like 4 or something. And I used it for learning Spanish, Japanese, and some other stuff probably. But those two are... Oh yeah, studying for exams as well. And somewhat recently, it's probably written down somewhere for me, I started using Anki again. I remembered that, like, I wanted to learn something. I forget what I wanted to learn. I think I'm pretty sure. Actually, hold up. What am I doing? What am I doing? I can probably... Let's search deck, every deck, and we go by created. Oh, yeah, we go by created, as said. Okay, I see. Yeah, so I started by... I was working at this project that employed me into like an internship, and I was learning Rust in very large quantities. It was really hard to keep it in my head, and I wanted to make sure that the information I was learning actually stayed in my head. And I was like, oh right, there's this thing, Anki, that I remembered using, and it was really good. I should probably start using it again so I actually remember the things that I would be otherwise forgetting. Why I thought of that is because I went through a course on C#, which also taught me about ASP.NET Core, SQL and databases, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But the thing about it, I understand the core ideas of how all of those work. I forgot all the details though. And that kinda sucks. The fact that I spent so much time and energy studying them only to now forget them. It's really sad. But with Anki, I can actually circumvent that and keep remembering things that I want to remember. And I love that. Let's slow down a bit, because I know how this works. I don't want to burn out because I have a lot of things to share with you. And if I continue talking this fast and energetic, I'll burn out and die. So, a very annoying reason for why I have to have so many node types. But yeah, essentially, these are the main ones. Let me actually go through them. The back, so front is the question, back is the answer. Keep that terminology in mind. Back is a code block. Front and back are just completely normal, no modifications. Both front and back are code blocks. Only the front is a code block. Back is a type box. Back is a type box. Front is a code block. Back is a type box. Front is a code block. And there's an extra information that you have to remember, and that extra information is in an inline code. Back is a type block, with extra information that is not in an inline code. So just normal font. Type box, extra, and it is inline. The difference from this one is that here the front is not a code block. X means one note creates two cards. So basically pink is the question to yellow, and then yellow is a question to pink. So this node type would create two cards, which make every question be the answer also. And yeah, basically two cards to the front and reverse. And Z is close. And close is basically there's a question in here, but it's missing some part of the question or a sentence or whatever else. I need to remember what it is omitting. And so most of the other node types are just these node types repeated, but with a singular change. They have a header. That's it. It's literally it. There are some exceptions, like this one. This is TE, so type and extra information. The only difference here is that it doesn't have the dot that tells you that there's extra information, because that extra information is not for remembering, it's literally just extra information that you don't need to remember. I won't go too deep into it, but yeah, all of these are just the same base node types, except they also have a header to actually tell me what subject the card is about. Another exception is wings 3, which looks like this. You have three fields. That you type in to make a card, and that ends up building into its own HTML that looks like this, so that I wouldn't have to retype height, horizontal, and vertical for every single card that I made. I instead just had to specify the numbers, and this kind of look is generated by itself. Similar thing goes for hooks, I think. Yeah. Similar thing where I don't have to type in distance or velocity. They are built into the node type. That is usually how you would use node types. And I hope Anki will make a solution that won't make me have to do this. Because the thing is, if I ever want to change the HTML of this node type, for example, or change the CSS, well, shit, now I have to go through every single card and change it. And it's not a quick or easy process, because you have to click on it, cards, styling, you select and you override it and you press save here. And the reason I'm using the mouse here at all is because using the keyboard isn't much faster. So let's imagine I already have the node type that I want selected, and I do Alt-C. What is Alt-C? That's not an actual thing. What I would have to do normally is tab, 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 tab. But it is so many tabs that I made my own hotkey for it. If I pressed Alt-C, it basically sends 5 tabs. Press Ctrl 3 to go to styling. Press 4 or 5 tabs again. I think it's 5. I don't know though. Yeah, it's 5. And then I do the thing. Then I do the thing, I press escape, boom, boom, enter to save, but I'll discard this time. So, and this isn't much faster, if at all. And when my task is to change something for this many node types, I might as well just use the most, like, the fastest method. And here with the mouse, I can actually not have to use my right hand for the keyboard, so it ends up being, I think, faster, or at least it feels this way. Essentially, this is a bad solution for an unfortunate problem that shouldn't exist in my opinion. When you're studying a parent deck, it should show you the subdeck name that you're studying from. I don't think that's like a wild concept. And I am super surprised that it's not a feature already. But well, I made it. And of course, I didn't just blabber about it to not give you the actual things. Here I have this file called card.html that explains all of the node types that I have. The first code before an empty new line defines the front, the second is the back, and this kind of thing repeats. This is the front, and back is not specified because it's not changed from the default. This is the front HTML, this is the back HTML, and it continues. And you can see in header comments I have the names of the node types. So back is code, just normal card, both front and back are code, and so on. So that's kind of how you can read and understand how this file works in semantics. And all of them have this header, which you won't need if your node type isn't specific. So if you're basically making these ones, but if it is specific, then you change blank to Rust, for example, or whatever else it is. So this file has and will contain all the HTML. So let's go to dot files, GHL, to this. This is the link to the file that's going to change in the future, and GHL parse branch head. This will not change. Static link versus a dynamic link, or rather, this is a dynamic link, this is a static one. That link doesn't work yet though because I haven't pushed. Okay, now it works. And this is the CSS. The nice thing about CSS is that it's the singular one across all node types. You still have to change it one by one, unfortunately, for some odd fucking reason. There's no way to change the CSS in like big chunks. No, you have to fucking also click there, click there, click there. Fucking cards, styling, boom boom. For every single one. It's really fucking bad. But with these, with HTML, it's even worse because you have to insert different HTML depending on the type of card that you're making. not the case with CSS, at least the way that I made it. It's consistent across all node types, and it has all the changes that I described here, and some more, which I thought wasn't really important to mention. So let's GHL. This is a dynamic link, and this is a static link. Here you go. If you like my Anki styles, they can be something that you can work from, because the defaults are ugly regardless, and even if you don't like my specific picks for maybe colors or radiuses or padding or whatever else, it can give you some inspiration potentially. Yeah, I think that's the core of the changes in CSS that I did in Anki. So you can see I collected a lot of things that I wanted to talk about. Nicer Anki cards with HTML and CSS background, yeah. Okay, very important thing that I keep forgetting to do, and most people won't care, understandably so, but I'm like super interested in. Fuck, I have to, really? That sucks. Now I have to like turn on a VPN to log in, because like, you know, I'm in Russia and Spotify is blocked here. Fuck, I wanted to share a link of a track that I recently found that I really like. Hold up, let me cook. I think I have sent the link to someone recently. Cause like I get obsessed about music, and then I listen to it on repeat. And I really wanted to share. But I'm scared I'm not gonna find the link. Yeah, probably not. That's super annoying. Why now? Why now has it logged me off? Fine, whatever. I'll probably post it on my Mastodon, to which you can find a link in the description. Alright, let's go to some directory that won't suffer from git checkout. And I'll explain what I mean in just a second. Sure, something like share alien temple. So you can look at your commits using git log -- one line, and here you have your commits. Cool. What if I wanted to go back in history to this point, for example? I would use git checkout. Currently, in my shell prompt, you can see the branch is specified here, because I'm currently on the main branch. If I git checkout to this, what used to happen is that that branch element just disappeared. But now the branch is now the commit hash that I get checked out to. And it looks really good, and it's very useful to essentially be a visual specifier that I'm currently in a detached head state. And then I can git checkout quiet main to go back. Let me go to prompt. Yeah, this is the code that I added to make this happen. Essentially, what I do there is git ref parse short head and use that output to show the commit, and only do that if we couldn't get the current branch. Because if you don't know, if we try to get branch show current, we get nothing. Nothing specifically. We don't get an error, we get nothing, which is somewhat annoying. Like, it's more annoying to work with than if it's errored out. And then we go back to main, get branch, we get main. And that's how we get this branch. So if get branch show current returns nothing, then we do get, or rather git ref parse short head. Essentially, we parse head to turn into an actual hash, an actual commit hash, and we shorten that commit hash to just 7 symbols. Yeah, it's 7. And here we go. That's how we get this. This method is what I use in my GHL program as well, and I have it all kind of talked about in the stream that's called Easier GitHub Links, I think. So yeah, let me give you the link to this as well. Dynamic link and parse branch head static link, so you can have a look at my shell prompt. Has a lot more stuff to it, which you can discover by reading, but I think there was something else that I wanted to show you. Okay, yeah. I guess I did show you everything about my shell prompt in that stream. Not the one that I just mentioned. Some stream ago. I don't remember. Alright. Here, when I did git log one line, and then I did get checkout, hold up, get checkout, and then I did this and did that. Whoa, what the fuck? Slow down there, sister. How did I do this? This is actually a feature of Kitty, where you can select a commit hash, or more broadly, select a hash to pick and then to insert into your command line. I set the hotkey Control-Shift-I to do that. Let's go look at them. Search for Control-Shift-I. So, first of all, the whole command. Let's go over it and what it does. Kitten hints, we call the kitten called hints, and that is what is used for the behavior to pick this, or maybe to pick this, which in this case is a path. You can also pick links. There are other stuff that you should read the documentation on. But basically, you can select text on your screen and do something with it. You can open it in some app, you can insert it into your command line, you can copy it, and I think other stuff. Yeah. And you can select a hash, a URL, a file path, and just plain regex that you just write to essentially select anything, which is really good. I haven't needed it yet, but the ability to sounds amazing. So, kit and hints. Here I define all the letters that are going to be shown on the hints. So you can see that all of these letters go in order from bottom to up from those that I listed here. So you don't have to use some specific ones defined by Kitty, you can define your own, which is really nice. Then you can change the background color, which by default is green, and the foreground color, which by default is white. I changed mine to, well, how they currently look, using the same yellow that I use everywhere. I use it here, I use it here, I use it here, I use it here, here. I can continue for a long time. I use this color damn near everywhere, as well as the pink. It's two of my favorite colors. And then links offset 0 is a specific thing that you basically should use if you're using alphabet to begin with, because you can also just use numbers instead, or you can choose to use alphabet, and if you do, pick links offset 0. If you want to know why, go read the docs. So we use this preset. Essentially, hence preset is an alias for all of this. Keep that in mind. And with all of that considered, we search for type hash, in my case commit hash, but probably like any hash. I don't know specifically the rules for what counts as a hash, but commit hashes work, so it's all that I need. And the program that we specify is dash, which means insert into your command line. Then a different thing that I have, we search for path, path or URL. Interestingly, it also catches URLs, and the program is @ which means copy this to your clipboard. Have a look at my clipboard. Let's go to some other directory like binaries and GHL. So the link is different, so you can clearly see the differentiation. I can press Shift-Alt-I to pick this path and just copy it to my clipboard, and now it is the recent thing in my clipboard. And I can then paste it as I want. So I could also, it could have been a thing to immediately insert into my command line, but what I wanted to have is to both have a way to immediately insert a thing and to copy it. This makes more sense once we discover the Alt-I hotkey, where we search for path, as well as this hotkey does. We also search for path, but the program is dash again. So I do boom. So I can either choose to pick a path to automatically insert, or to choose a path to copy to my clipboard. I have this choice, I have this flexibility that I can easily use. But the nice thing about Alt-I is that it doesn't have to be a single one. When I press Shift-Alt-I, it immediately ended at the first one, but you can decide to by specifying multiple joiner empty. Yeah, so you specify multiple to basically mean you can pick multiple things and then they're joined depending on multiple joiner. I picked empty because for some odd reason it inserted 2 spaces instead of 1, and empty is 1 space. No fucking clue why. So let's go and do an ls, actually lsw. The reason for why that is important, let me press Alt-I. Okay, well, holy shit, now, why does it work now? Okay, how it used to work is that only this one would appear, and all of these wouldn't work. And they would only work if they were vertical. For some odd fucking reason, that's not an issue anymore. Maybe it's a recent update or something. But basically now, with Alt-I, I get to pick multiple L, S, K, D, J, F, and they're very quick, rigid. Like, it doesn't take time to maybe reappear the hints. Once the hint is on your screen, it's not going to change either. So picking multiple essentially by default actually works really well because of how nice it looks. Then you just press escape and here you go. All of those that you picked now got inserted into your command line. And then if for some odd reason I want to copy something like this, I can press Control X in fish shell. Yeah, I think that's the only default solution. Hello. So to kind of like show you, say I do, oh, I want to cat discovery. That's really quick. That pressing of escape really isn't a big deal, considering how nice the picking process feels. So using Alt-I, the most accessible hotkey, having it pick multiple by default actually works for me, because let's do GSA again, go to tree because it has multiple. The very common use case for this is that I do GS, and I'm like, okay, I want to pick some of these, but not necessarily all of them. Boom. And I do git add. Very common use case that I didn't have a good enough solution for the longest time. What I used to have is that Alt-I only let me select one at once. So it makes sense to have it pick multiple by default and then just opt out of picking more, like once I'm done, by pressing escape. I'm still disappointed that I can't invoke fish by typing fish. I'm sure you can. If you make an alias, which is just the fish emoji, surely, right? Let's try this out. Function of function lemao. Fish. Echo fish. End. No way, I was joking. No fucking way. That's hilarious. Wow. Wow. Yeah, you're right. That's an absolute kick W. That's the kickest of W's that I've ever seen. God damn, wow. Huh. Well, by all accounts, that's a good thing that it supports like UTF-8 or other Unicode. Not sure how specifically to name this thing, but the fact that it does support emojis, yeah, it's silly, but it also means that it will support other strange characters that you might want to use legitimately. So fine, I guess. That's selected that you just invoked to find the emoji. Yeah. I have a few streams, and I think my most recent video, or one of the most recent videos, is about this one. It's a kitty specific emoji picker, like for the kitty terminal. Here you can insert Unicode to get a character. You can search by name, and this is often what I use to make thumbnails. So my thumbnails are just 2 emojis, and how I do that is I go to Discord, because its picker is a bit more visual, I guess, because see, it doesn't actually give me anything. I don't have anything to scroll through, and this is limited. So yeah, to pick emojis, I go and have a look here. I'm like, okay, this looks kind of fitting in vibes for this streams or videos kind of theme or idea or subject. Oh yeah, this fits also. Then what I do, I go here and I say pineapple. I'm like, okay, the Unicode is 1F34D. Okay, good. Let's go here now and go to Twimoji, which has all of the emojis. I search for, I already forgot, 1F34D. 1F34D. I get this. Then I rename it with the name that makes sense and is the most close to what you would expect. Pineapple, boom, and I add it into GIMP. Boom, that's how my thumbnails are done. And this is like a big part to it. But this is also how well, most of the time, the way that I insert emojis, you'll see me use this one very often. I straight up have memorized the Unicodes of emojis that I use the most often. And on KDE, you can press Ctrl-Shift-U in most places to insert a character by its Unicode. I've shown this off many times already, but I'll never get tired of talking about it. But for emojis that I haven't yet memorized, for example, or emojis that are one-off that I want to insert, I'll often use this. But it won't be in some terminal that I already have, because I'm probably somewhere here. I'll be pressing my hotkey that creates a new terminal, runs this application in Kitty, and let's say I want to get a whale. Boom, it's now in my clipboard. Yeah, it's like one of my, I'm pretty sure I made a video on it, or at the very least a stream or 2. So if you're interested in how I do all those things, how to make them work, you can check those out. Yeah. So now, with these 3 hotkeys, I get to do I get to do actions on text in a very efficient way. So, like in this situation, I don't have to type in something like this or other. Yeah, you know, it's kind of slower and slower to the point where I would rather not. Not an issue if I just do this. Much faster. I could run a Python script using You could. You absolutely could. Yeah. And then if I decide that actually I don't need to insert it, or I don't want to insert it, I just need this path to maybe use it somewhere else. Yeah, and the commit hashes are just such a big deal. Because the reason that I made this hotkey is entirely so that I could copy commit hashes. And now I have a more direct way of doing that. What is this though? Because I haven't talked about that either. Oh, let me actually give the link as well. As I do. Boom. Dynamic link. Static link. Okay. I think, hold up. Multiple. Those are not those are not Alt-M hotkeys, Lamau. Those are not Alt-M either. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I don't remember how much about this I've talked. Okay, yeah, I actually talked about them in great extent. So the difference from my previous setup, TLDR, Alt-M, I press it, I open the contents of my screen in NeoVim. Shift Alt-M, the previous commands, output in NeoVim. Control Alt-M, the topmost command on screen. So it would have to scroll, and boom, I can now open this. That's the TLDR. I made a difference here that I feel like I've fucking talked about. Regardless, I removed the gutter in this place that usually displays the lines, the line numbers. Now there are no such thing, and the reason I did it this way is so that when I press Alt-M, the text stays exactly where it was. It doesn't move. Like, you can look. Sure, it gets recolored, and that is a difference for sure, but it doesn't move, and that is so amazing. That means that as I'm looking at some place, for example, this place, right? I want to copy juice for whatever reason. I can just go there and continue looking at that place continuously. I think that's super nice. Yeah, and the way I did that, let's go to wait, no. Alt-M. How did I do it? Oh, I think it's in init.lua. Yeah, so when you open programs using launch is a specific thing that you can use in Kitty to launch new tabs, overlay, window, which means pane, actual window, like OS window, other stuff to execute some command in. So the application then can be given stdin source. In this case, it is screen. So you get the contents of your screen as the input. And when that happens, Kitty sets an environment variable called kitty pipe data. So if it is set, we remove these two settings, removing the line numbers, because I still have them. You can see now on the left they're there, but they're not there if I use the kitty hotkeys. So it's like really nice. I didn't have to go one way or the other. I can have both cakes and eat them both. And finally, let's go to memes. iCat, more specifically kitten, iCat. Kitty terminal can display fucking images. Imagine? I'm not kidding. The Kitty terminal, and you don't have to install anything. If you have Kitty, you have this as well. You can just display images. And what else do I have? This. Like, isn't this fucking cool? You can view images in your terminal. That is especially useful for something like going to Octagit. And here you can see the img directory. Let's go to img. Has a bunch of images that are used in the README. What if I wanted to, for example, ensure that a certain image looks like how I imagine it to? Well, now I can iCat symbol. Okay, how does this look? Okay, yeah, that's correct. You know? Instead of having to do something like open dolphin, and then you have to find it again. Like, oh, what was it? And so on. And now I can't even find it, which drags my point across even better. Oh, okay, that's how it looks. Close this, and now you're back. Like, that's a whole process. But with Kitty, you can just look at it in the terminal, and arguably, it's even better this way. And I think it stays too. Yeah, it stays. Ah, fuck, it's so amazing. Yeah, so that's it, kinda. All the things that I wanted to talk about today. Almost. I have a program that I'm working on that I haven't yet finished. I don't even have a file manager. Damn, you're fucking wow. Damn. I mean, something like Ranger exists, I get it, but honestly, I haven't been able to fully transition into using only a terminal-based file manager. There are some places where drag and drop actually just makes more sense. Oh, just like straight terminal commands always? That's how I do the actual actions on files. But like dragging files, like opening them, like I'm here for example, it's generally going to be easier for me to do it this way than this, upload a file, and then I have to go there myself. It depends though, I use both ways. I'm working on a program called Loago, and I haven't finished it, which is why I'm not going to be talking about it right now. But what I wanted to express is that I have this C# program called Short Tracker, and you just saw how long it took to execute. So Short Tracker is exactly what it sounds like. It lets you track chores, track how many days ago you did a specific task. I changed my razor 20 days ago. It's probably changes again, but razors are fucking expensive and I don't have a job, so changing them quite rarely. Regardless, I rewrote this C# program in Rust, and now it is much faster. It immediately returned the result that we were looking for. Better yet, now I think it works functionally better in the sense of the time differences being calculated. I might be incorrect and not giving the C# program enough credit, but I think it counts the days like counts the days from a certain date or from a certain time. Forgot to tell you, check out Brute when you get the chance. Okay, what is that? So essentially 20 days have passed and it waits for a specific time in the day to count it as another day. I might be wrong on that, to be fair. I don't remember the code. I haven't looked at it in a long time. But Loago essentially counts the full days. Once they add a new task, it starts counting the days from that, not just the hour, from that hour, minute, second, and I'll tell you more, fucking milliseconds. And beyond milliseconds. That's how precise it is. It doesn't need to, it's just kind of how I programmed it because it was easier, interestingly. So if, for example, I vacuumed at 8 a.m. 2 days ago, the vacuum thing would change to 2 at 8 a.m. at that exact time, counting the full days rather than from some point in time, which I find really nice. Oh, and by the way, the speed difference isn't because the code is massively faster or slower or whatever else. The only really difference that is here is that C# needs some time to boot up its runtime, to do its JIT compilation, all that stuff. And that's why, at least on Linux, it's pretty fucking slow. Rust doesn't have this problem, and that's why it's faster. It's true that it's also a faster language overall, but it wouldn't actually matter here. I'm not doing anything of such a complexity where that speed will really make a difference. The startup time, though, very much does, which is why I haven't been using Short Tracker as actively as I am now Loago. Like, Short Tracker had less stuff that I now have in Loago, and I feel more interested in using Loago now because it actually doesn't take up that extra annoying time to boot up. It's as fast as possible, immediately returns all the data that I need, and it's amazing. I don't know how to describe it. It's like FZF but 2A, but it's kind of also file manager. It's also like, wow, that's a lot. That sounds interesting, like something that I could make use of potentially. That's cool. Yeah, so Loago is like, functionally it works, but Loago is also a library, and I haven't yet written the documentation or the README for even the binary. So the project is public, you can go look at it if you want to, but I won't give a link to it yet because I haven't actually finished it, so it's not exactly a product that I'm ready to show yet fully. But essentially, I'm really excited about it, and I love it. Thanks for watching.